She has the same compassion, she has the same empathy, she has the same confidence. She has this warmth about her.
Well, joining me now, a royal correspondent for Vanity Fair, Katie Nicholl, Princess Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, and historian and author, Dr. Tessa Dunlop. Well, Paul, you and I had lunch with Princess Diana and a young Prince William, who's 13, at Buckingham Palace. Kensington Palace, I'm sorry. You were the butler, served a very nice meal, I have to say. 2 hours with Diana, and she was completely charming, compassionate, empathetic, and all those things. I also knew Meghan Markle, who, in my estimation, from everything that happened before, during and after, when I knew her, is a complete piece of work, devoid of any real compassion, witness her father and the family, devoid of empathy, who's taken this prince away from his family now and is trying to exploit the royal titles for maximum gain. That is not what Diana did.
No.
She never was in it for personal gain.
Not a penny.
When you heard Harry say that, has he lost his mind?
I'm gobsmacked. You cannot compare Princess Diana to Meghan. They are two totally different creatures in totally different spaces at totally different times. And if you had lived with her for 10 years, as I did, I can honestly say there is no comparison to Princess Diana.
Tess?
None.
Paul, I mean, Harry's a man in love. He's in love with Meghan, and his memory of Diana is one from when he was a 10 and 11-year-old boy.
Yes.
Is he in love, or is he, as Donald Trump told me? Have we got the Donald Trump clip?
Oh, do we have to play the Donald Trump clip?
Yeah. Have we got it? This is what Donald Trump said. It wasn't really love he thought was the problem. Let's listen to this. Here we go. It's coming. It's the magic of live television.
Harry is whipped. Do you know the expression whipped?
I'm familiar with the phrase.
I won't use the full expression. But Harry is whipped like no person I think I've ever seen.
The most whipped man in the world.
I don't know, that's going to be a big one, but he is a whipped man, yeah.
Yeah, the full expression is he's pussy whipped.
I don't want to take my advice on romance and love from two Neanderthal men over 50. Quite frankly, I think you're all missing the point. I thought the main takeaway message, which you could learn from, and all three of us could probably be humiliated by, was the relationship, the crony relationship between the British press and the palace. There's mutual dependency
which was
there that's
massively...
corrupting.
Sorry.
No, it's corrupting, and it has been throughout the 20th century. If I may ask you,
as a former tabloid newspaper editor for 10 years, I know more about that relationship than you do, with great respect.
Historically, I probably know more
actually,
about
than you do, because I was on the sharp end of it.
I can test that.
The idea that somehow there was some collusion between the newspapers and the journalists at Buckingham Palace.
Can I just jump in, having covered the royals for the best part of 15 years, let me just tell you, and one of the things that annoyed me so much in what Harry said was the idea that we are just a royal rota, that are just drip-fed material from the house. If only it was that easy. His contempt for the British media is so apparent.
By the way, what about this? This is a guy whining about the media. What's he done since he left royal duty? He's now on James Corden's bus top. He's doing Oprah Winfrey. He's doing a Netflix reality show. The guy never stays off of using the media.
He's doing it
All he wanted was cash.
And what we need to be honest about is the predominantly conservative press rely on access to the royal family for their scoops, for their biographies. Even I, as a historian, if I go too far, will I get into the Royal Archive? The truth is, it's compromising. And if we'd all done our job properly, maybe there would be a royal household which has more than 10% ethnic minority employees.
The truth is that Harry has always attacked tabloids, including ones that I used to edit, for exploiting the royal family for commercial gain. Now he is exploiting his hatred of the royal family for commercial gain, even using his own mother, the late Princess Diana, to do that for money, for hard dollars.
I concede that Harry
and it is disgusting hypocrisy.
I concede he's not perfect.
His mother would be very unhappy.
She'd be furious
about what was happening now, because it upsets William, it upsets Kate, and those boys had a pact that these interviews would not be shown again on national television.
And they used
particularly
from the panorama.
Bashir.
Well, let me bring in. We've got a stellar panel of ordinary members of the public here, all of whom have strong opinions. We won't get to all of you, and you know that. But I want to go to Fran Foley-Winston, who's in Dublin. Fran, what was your take on what we saw today?
It was just so cringe-worthy. I don't know how to they've managed to get 6th episode. It was halfway through, and they weren't even engaged yet. You know, I don't think they've dated that long in real life. Ridiculous.
So you weren't impressed?
No, and I'm in a group, messenger groups coming up.
Frank, we're having a problem with your link there. I'm going to try and come back to you a bit later. Let's go now to, we're going to go to Nicola Myers. What is your view? You have a different view, I think, Nicola.
Okay, so my view of the Netflix series, as it happens this morning, I've actually watched episode 1, 2 and 3 back to back. And I loved it. Okay, I absolutely loved it. Before I watched it, I wasn't sure of my opinion of everything that had gone on with Meghan and Harry, and if they were set out to jeopardise the British monarchy. After watching it, I'm on their side. I'm for Meghan and Harry.
Why?
I absolutely am.
Why?
They're madly in love. They're madly in love.
I'm very happy for them. Why trash their families? Why trash their families?
Why trash the families?
Yeah.
I don't think they've purposely set out to trash their families.
They literally purposely set out to trash their families.
With all the racial, Harry has got scared of all the racial abuse that the love of his life was getting. He saw it happening, what had happened to his mother, where his mother got murdered. And he's panicked. They've gone.
Well, she died in a car crash. She wasn't murdered.
He doesn't want to see that happen.
Okay, let me go to Magali Gore, who's in. We haven't got Magali. I'm sorry. We'll come back to another one of our panel in a moment. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Lots of different reactions. I've heard some people say they like them and they support them. You see that on social media a lot. I've got to say, walking around today, I didn't meet anyone in Kensington on the streets who was anything but furious.
Yes.
I've not had anyone on my Twitter feed coming in saying that at all. And people saying we're going to cancel our Netflix subscription. There seems to be a real reaction against it.
It's a clear exploitation of Princess Diana's image.
It's very anti-British. I'm going to own that. That really struck me this morning in my little British home. I thought, gosh, I felt almost like I was under siege. And I'm fairly neutral in terms of, you know, where my affections lie, whether it's for the royals or for Harry.
I was watching with my wife, Celia. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday to my wife. And we couldn't think of a better way to enjoy her birthday than to spend 3 hours watching those whining little brats in Montecito. But we sat and watched it, and about halfway through, we turned to it and went, this is really boring, isn't it? And the reason it was boring was because they were repeating so much of the rehashed stuff which we heard on Oprah. It's the same. It's like Elvis playing all his old hits, only he's not quite as good this time.
They're not appealing to you, the voyeuristic, ooh, let's have a look in their Montecito home, ooh, they met on Instagram, all those aspects. To be fair, Piers, I mean, it's going to the generation below even me, let alone you.
Well, let's go. All right, we can go to Magali Gore now, Magali Gore, who's in Cheshire. Magali, I think you can hear me now. What's your view?
Yes. Hi. Well, to be fair, I have double feelings about it. But one feeling that I can say is that, as you can see, I'm a woman, I'm brown. And when I saw royalty getting in love, and she was a brown princess because she became a princess, the door went open for so many dreams of little girls like me. When I was young, and I was raised in a very white community, racist. Now, sometimes people are not used to how you look like. They're not used to how you, what your roots are or what your background is, or that you handle things maybe differently. I loved the wedding, for example. The wedding was a bit American.
Well, I agree with you.
Music,
I wrote all this, Magali. I wrote a big piece for the Mail on Sunday saying exactly what you've just been saying. I think that was the general mood of this country. Yeah. That's why I'm so angry that they're now trying to make out they were driven out by racist Britain, racist royals, racist media. None of that was true. Now, what did you think now, having watched it today? What's your view of them now?
It is a repeat from a lot of things, and I have to be honest to you, still we cannot really feel what she felt. I only know that when you're coming in an institution where she comes in a family that is a very strong, a very serious family, a very, look at the Queen. She's born to do this, So this is what you do. This is what you're going to live. And then there comes a girl from America that thinks with an American background to the red carpet, oh, I'm going to make it now. Look at me. No. You have to live like the protocols.
Yeah.
And I think that's a struggle. And
Okay, Magali, I've got to leave it there.
Like
I get your point.
Look.
I've got to leave it there.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break, but thank you
Okay.
for that. I'm going to come back after the break, and we'll talk more about this, particularly also Meghan Markle mocking the moment she met the Queen and had to curtsy, and Harry's response. Does it get any more disrespectful than that? We'll talk about it after the break.
Mate, we're on here in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, just get rid of some stress, it's fine.
Sam Allardyce here, everyone.
You've got someone out guitar for me?
Okay, you're definitely out there, right?
Yeah, I'm out here.
So I need some A-listers on the show.
Howard's getting 5,000 quid.
Will Singleton Stadium.
Well, getting all the laughs. Would you go back into football?
If it was the Wolves job, I'd go back into football, but I can't speak Portuguese.
I thought I wouldn't be able to get a beer out here. I can.
Great, there we put that there.
He's back, and he's uncensored. Debating the breaking news and talking to the biggest names. Piers Morgan is live every week with a host of stars. Uncompromising, unmissable, and uncensored. And remember,
if you're thinking it, we're talking about it.
Piers Morgan, Uncensored, Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on Talk TV. This is Talk TV.
There's no class in some person who goes sit like this, cross your legs like this, use this fork, don't do this, curtsy then, wear this kind of hat. Doesn't happen. And I remember in the car and driving up and he said, you know how to curtsy, right? And I just thought it was a joke. I mean, Americans will understand this. We have medieval times, dinner and tournament. It was like that. Like I curtsied as though I was like... Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty.
Yeah, nice, right? Mocking our Queen, mocking the fact she had to show her respect by just learning how to curtsy properly. It's not hard to learn, is it, if you're marrying into the family? Well, joining me now is the editor of Hollywood Unlocked, Jason Lee, niece of Martin Luther King Jr., Arvida King, and Conservative radio host Ben Ferguson. I still have Paul and Katie with me. So let me start with you, if I may, Ben Ferguson. What does America make of this? I mean, surely they're not falling for this, are they?
Yeah, can you please come get your Kardashians? That's number one. Number two, it seems like these two individuals that are obsessed with being private people and being out of the public eye are actually a bunch of narcissists that are totally obsessed with being in the public eye. It was a crybaby special. I mean, full disclosure, I could only watch so much of it, Piers, before I said, give me a break, rolled my eyes, and moved on with my life. So I would say if you want to waste 3 hours of your life, and you love drama and your soap opera isn't coming in, watch this because it's amazing.
Yeah.
But this rewriting of history through their eyes, like they're somehow victims, they're not victims. She's crazy and she's trying to destroy a family here. And I used to kind of feel sorry for Harry. I don't anymore.
No.
Because he's sitting there doing it with her. Like,
Yeah.
you can even see at the curtsy moment that you just came in with here. He looks at her almost like she's crazy. And maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 years, she'll realize this woman
thought that
has
was the
destroyed my
moment.
life.
Yeah, I think that's the moment we'll look back on, I suspect, in a couple of years, and that'll be a tipping point. Let's go to Alveda King. Alveda King, Dr. King is one of my all-time heroes, as he is many people. He truly was somebody who stood up to racial injustice, racial inequality, like nobody in modern times, and it cost him his life. The idea that these two are in any way, on any level, people doing similar stuff is, to me, fanciful. They're just sitting there in a mansion in California, spray gunning their families, calling them a bunch of callous, vile racists without any evidence, aren't they?
Do I just jump in?
Well,
because
here's.
What that person just said, I don't know.
Off you go.
Hi.
Hi, Alveda.
Alveda.
Off you go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Well, here I am. I grew up with the Princess and the Pea, Cinderella, lately Wakanda Forever, and exploring all these various cultures. And so there is no happily ever after in Cinderella land if you're from 2 different cultures. And so what we have is a cultural confusion on Meghan's part, and she wants to superimpose her culture on her husband and their family, and that just doesn't work. But I'm remindful of my uncle, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We must learn to live together as brothers, and I'll say as sisters, or perish together as fools. Now, there's only one blood and one human race, and so to put racism into everything doesn't necessarily ring true either. And really, Britain had a queen. I think it was Queen Sophie, who was part German and part Black African person. So it's not like the monarchy is opposed to skin color, but there's only one blood and one race. But I think Meghan is mixing maybe Hollywood fantasy and her pain of what she wants to see. But you can't topple a whole line of traditions based on pain. But past pain, there is communication. It takes some guts to even speak out and say some of these things. But we want to bring this back into a reality, and I think that's the problem.
Alveda, that's one of the most brilliant analysis I've heard, actually, of the whole farrago. Thank you. Absolutely brilliant.
Okay.
Want to bring in Jason Lee now. You fall for all this. You think they're great heroes and deserve all the awards they're getting, and they're freedom fighters standing up to the oppressive Brits, do you?
Well, I'm not obsessed with them to the point that I'm following every move that they're making, but I have watched the documentary, and so far I love it. And I'm somebody who's black and white, and, you know, I've listened to some of the people on the show today. The guy who started at the top of this segment has just annoyed me. You can tell he probably doesn't have much love in his life. And the woman before the last segment, she was probably a bit oversized and unattractive. Doesn't really sound like she had... Hold on, we already heard what you had to say. Clearly, you're mad that there's black blood in the bloodline for the royal family. But since you want to talk about... If you want to talk about racism in the UK, let's talk about the racism in UK then, because the blood diamonds at Buckingham Palace have not been returned. You're very consumed with the man who's in love with a black woman. That's the problem that you have. But this is the deal. I love the fact that Harry... I love that... Wait a minute.
Time out. Unity.
They're all human beings. Skin color is
here's the deal. Everybody got to talk before me.
All right, listen.
Everybody got to talk before me.
You can't all talk at once. Jason, here's the problem, Jason. It's when you get to the specifics of who in the royal family has actually been racist. There is no answer. There's no evidence. There are no facts. It's all just smear by association. They're racist. They're blind to it all. They're unconsciously biased. Blah, blah, blah. Where is the meat on the bone? Where are the facts?
Well, we haven't seen it all yet, and I think that we have to let them tell their story, right? We're both in the media. One thing I love about you, Piers, you say what you feel, what you think, regardless of how people feel, and I think they should be given the same freedom. We enjoy talking about them. Let them tell their story so we could talk about their story. I look at their love story from their point of view, and I look at how it's been reported, and I can enjoy it all without feeling, getting in my feelings. I think that how she described meeting the Queen, I don't know how I would have felt if I would have met the Queen. I didn't have that privilege, but I probably would have been nervous too. And I don't know what preparation went on. I mean, what we're looking at is very public people who are under scrutiny, who had private lives, and now we're seeing what that looked like.
Yeah, but you know what, Jason? She met the Queen. She met the
Piers.
Queen privately, and she was with the Queen's grandson, who probably does know how you greet the Queen.
She also had
So
Ferguson there.
exactly.
This is the Queen's grandson.
Look, that was a
This is
great
the Queen-
panel. I want to thank Jason.
Wait, but in all
Ben
fairness,
Ferguson. And just for
in
the
all
record,
wait.
Ben
In all-
Ferguson, I think you would like to
Hey,
just clarify.
I
You
live
do
in a
have. You
fishbowl.
do. Well,
I
Ben,
get it.
Alveda, 1 second. Ben, just to clarify, you do have love in your life, yeah?
Yes. I have a wife that loves me, 3 children that love me, and I said nothing about race in
I've got
comments.
to leave it there. Thank you to my panel. Thank you very much indeed. We'll be back after the break. Get our verdicts here from Katie and Paul.
Mate, we're on air in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, just get me some stress, it's fine.
Sam Allardyce is here, everyone.
You've got someone out in Qatar for me?
Hey, you're definitely out there, right?
Yeah, I'm out here.
So I need some A-listers on the show.
Howard's getting 5,000 quid.
Well, I've hosted some uncensored shows from strange places in my time, but never anywhere quite like this. And strange only in fascinating. We're at the heart of Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. I've never been before. My guest, Tucker Carlson, has never been here before either. So we're both newbies to Saudi Arabia. And we're going to do a little head-to-head. I grill him for an hour. He grills me for an hour. We tossed a virtual coin on somebody's phone. I won. I get to go first. So I get to have him right where I want him. Tucker Carlson, welcome.
Well, good morning.
Dude, do you ever think in all the alcohol-free gin joints in all the world, we would be finally sitting down together in the middle of Saudi Arabia?
The world has gotten so weird that it actually doesn't shock me. It doesn't shock. Pyongyang might shock me, but this feels like closer to the center than it used to, for sure.
We've been here a couple of days. I don't know about you. I've been genuinely stunned by the reality of Saudi Arabia compared to what I've been told it was like.
I have been, but I've met so many people. I have so many friends who, oh, where were you? I was just in Riyadh or Al Ula, or I was, vacationing with my family in Saudi. I yesterday ran into 2 Orthodox Jewish guys from Brooklyn in Riyadh. And what are you doing here? Oh, we're looking to open a kosher something or other. Really? So I think a lot of our preconceptions are absurd, actually, or mine. I'll speak for myself. But I find that every place I go, you think you know what you're going to find, but it's totally different. Totally different. Moscow being the greatest example, but there are a million others. You know what I mean?
The most extraordinary example of that was you walking through the streets of Washington, I think just before the inauguration.
Now, that was extraordinary.
Where normally I would have expected you, in the heart of liberal country, to be a reviled figure, chased by people down the street, having sackcloth thrown at you. Actually, it was the complete opposite, which was very telling about the change of mood in somewhere like DC.
I spent 35 years there, basically my whole life there, and I had to leave ultimately because I was perceived as close to Trump, and it was very hostile, really hostile. I don't think Washington is a liberal city in the true sense of liberal. It's not open or relaxed, But it's institutional. You know, it's based on the federal government and the way things are. The status quo is very important to the people who live there, and anyone who seeks to disrupt it is really hated. I mean, Idi Amin would get a far warmer welcome in my neighborhood than Donald Trump got. Idi Amin is fine, world leader, it's okay. Donald Trump, not allowed. And so to be, greeted warmly in Washington, really because of Trump, it had nothing to do with me, but, people were happy that Trump got elected in Washington. So I don't fully understand what's going on, but I was
noticed
shocked
it.
by it.
I noticed it. I went to my first ever rally by any politician. I went to the Madison Square Garden rally. Happened to just got to New York, and I thought, I'm going to go down there. And I spoke to President Trump in the morning, and I told him I was going to go down. And he said, "You're going to enjoy it. It's like a rock concert."
Yes.
And it kind of is. His rallies are like rock concerts. But I thought, middle of Manhattan, right before an election. I remembered 2016. I thought it could be mayhem down there. I was worried about where I was going to be dropped and whether going to be tens of thousands of protesters, marches through the streets of New York, very liberal city again. And it was extraordinary. I was there for a few hours, and there were 50,000 people outside, but they were all trying to get in. They were Trump supporters without tickets. And I said to the Secret Service, how many protesters turned up? 150 people turned up in the heart of Manhattan to protest. And I thought then, after he got shot, he's going to win. And I thought after Biden got politically shot, it was even more likely he'd win, because I thought that they're going to coronate Kamala in this ridiculous manner. She was hopeless the first time around. It's not going to work. Even more chance of him winning. But by the time I got to that rally, I was like, he's home and dry. I mean, he's going to win big.
Yes. I thought that too. I was shocked by it. And I thought, is it a kind of surrender? Is it, Trump just built a bigger siege ramp and just knocked down the walls?
Well, the resistance just collapsed.
But the resistance was fake in the first place. So they use, in my country, and I know yours as well, they used race politics to make everyone shut up. Like, you can't talk or you're a racist. And the truth is that was enforced by unhappy liberal white ladies. And there are not that many of them, actually. And they had like a hammerlock on the culture of my country and really oppressed it. And then when they took power through Joe Biden or attempted Kamala Harris, they did like a terrible job. They just didn't do a good job. And so the second somebody just said out loud, like, this is all nonsense. Like, these people don't know what they're doing. The race politics stuff is fake. Look at all the black people outside the rally. All the Hispanic guys, like, love Trump. It's nonsense. You don't have to obey anymore. And all the liberal white ladies are like, "Oh, yes, you do." And everyone's like, "Shut up, liberal white ladies." Like, we're sick of this. The tyranny
fact that Trump won
of the menopausal, angry liberal chick was just too much. And so it's like Liberation Day.
The fact that Trump won the Hispanic vote was
of course he did.
Truly extraordinary.
Ever met a liberal Salvadoran? No, there's not one. Of course not. The whole thing was totally fake. And it was a certain class of people. It wasn't just menopausal liberal white ladies, though they were in charge, ruling through fear. But it was a whole class of people whose cart was being overturned by Trump, and they used kind of symbolic figures like Meghan Markle, as you found out, as their proxies to hold power. But those proxies never represented the groups they supposedly represented. Meghan Markle does not represent black people in the United States. I don't know if you knew that.
No question she doesn't. Don't worry, I'm very familiar. She doesn't represent anybody.
Of course
other
not.
Other than a very elite, hypocritical group of people who are really going to go down in history as the most hypocritical group of people ever.
And the most incompetent. Like, they don't know how the power grid works. They can't fix a car. They don't know anything. They're totally useless. They're parasites. And when given the chance to rule, they like wrecked the country because they don't know how to do anything. And it was all a lie. And it just turns out you can get pretty far in aggression. And there's sort of a famous battle at Gettysburg, the pivotal battle of the Civil War in the United States, where, the Union, a Union detachment led by a guy from Maine called Joshua Chamberlain, who was a history professor at a college in Maine, led a charge with no ammunition. And they just yelled loud enough that the Confederates like, "Oh my gosh," and they surrendered. That was an honorable thing to do. A very similar thing just happened in the United States, where like these super angry, unhappy people acting out of the agony of their own barren personal lives were like, "I'm in charge because you're a racist," and everyone's like, "Okay." They had no bullets in the gun, actually.
What was fascinating to watch it all go down in the last 2 years was that you could go back 2 years and Trump appeared to be dead and buried politically, like it was over. All the momentum was swinging behind people like Ron DeSantis. It was like the party were desperate to move on from Trump. He was really in the wilderness.
Yes.
Apparently floundering and apparently over. And then almost from the moment they started the attempt to put him in prison, the lawfare as it's become
exactly
known.
Right.
From the moment they started that, I just noticed, I mean, obviously you couldn't fail to notice it, but his poll numbers began to tick up and up and up. And the more they did it and the more cases they threw at Trump, the more popular he grew. What do you think that was about?
I think it's about exactly what you said. It was the moment, I think it was August of 2022, when they raided his wife's underwear drawer in an armed raid at Mar-a-Lago on a documents charge, and then tried to tell us he had nuclear secrets in his dressing room or something. It was also stupid. It was so obviously political persecution conducted by the Justice Department, which in our tradition, in our country, like, you can't do that. That is a true attack on democracy. It was really at that moment, I think, that, I mean, I was on vacation with my kids and my wife and kids, and I read that. I was in a foreign country, and I thought, ooh, he's going to be president. And then
did you? You instinctively felt
instantly,
if they're going to try and do this
instantly. And I said that to my son said that to me. We're sitting smoking a cigar, and he's like, Trump's going to win. And I thought, he works in politics, so he's a little better at this than I am. But I was like, yeah, that's totally true. And then the opposition, he had very capable, a couple, I thought, very capable people who I like. Ron DeSantis, prime among them.
Yeah.
And the problem with DeSantis was not that he was incompetent. He's supremely competent. And I think he did a wonderful job in Florida. And I really like Ron DeSantis, but he was totally a marionette of his donors, utterly. And that became really clear on, like, the war in Ukraine. Like, Ron DeSantis comes out and says, oh, the war in Ukraine is not central to American national security. And Ken Griffin, his biggest donor, reels him in. The next day, Ron DeSantis is like, oh, no, it's really important that we continue to send hundreds of billions to Zelensky or whatever. And then his donors demand a hate speech law in Florida. He pushes it. It passes. It was too obvious. I would say this to his face. I hope he sees this, because I mean it with love. You can't be a pure puppet of your biggest donors. Everyone's influenced by the people around him. Donors have a great deal of influence, inordinate influence probably. But you can't do exactly what they say every time. And it made DeSantis look weak. And it made him look controlled. And this is a moment where people are kind of hip to that trick, and they sort of know the politicians, you know what I mean, aren't really acting on their behalf or even independently. They're acting because some billionaire told them to do what they're doing. And I think DeSantis was just too obvious about that, and it destroyed him. And
when the lawfare continued, it seemed to me the tipping point where I was convinced Trump would win was the attempt to prosecute him for ultimately what he was convicted of doing, which was shuffling a bit of paperwork over an alleged one-night stand with a porn star 18 years before, which on every level was so ridiculous. And I immediately looked at the polls, and what was fascinating was, I mean, no Americans thought this was a good idea, to go after Trump over something so trivial, to actually drag an American president for the first time through a criminal court over something so pathetic and so inconsequential, so meaningless, was such an obvious example, it seemed to me, of a petty, political, spiteful move to try and shut Trump down. And by doing it over Stormy Daniels, it just seemed to me, well, if you're going to do this, he's going to win the election. Americans are not going to put up with this.
With respect, I don't think the president handled it in exactly the right way. I would have said, all right, everybody here in this room, all my judges arrayed against me, raise your hand if you haven't sent money to your girlfriend or boyfriend. I mean, let's be honest. Like, let's make that the new standard. If you're an American politician and you've ever sent money to your girlfriend or boyfriend, because, like, a lot of them, those guys have boyfriends, then you're disqualified. So we're going to make that the new standard.
Then there's no Congress.
No, I'm serious. It was like Matt Gaetz, like, oh, we're going to leak the ethics committee investigation we did on it. And Gates said something which I wish had come true, which is, okay, fine, let's leak all the ethics committee investigations, all the sealed investigations into sitting members of Congress. I mean, if you want to play that game, let's play the game, right? And I spent my life there.
Because it is a game. I mean,
well, that was only a game.
It was a political game.
The supreme hypocrisy of, people like Mitch McConnell, or pick one, with personal lives that would not withstand scrutiny. They wouldn't. And, God can sort that out. It's not really my place to judge. But as long as we're judging, okay, let's judge. They're not in a position to talk like that at all. A lot of these guys are completely controlled by their personal peccadillos, by their personal failings. And everyone knows that. So, like, how about stop? How about shut up? You know, and I wish Trump had said that, because he knows that, because it's true.
Well, I just talked to Democrats and I went, so let me get this straight. Bill Clinton, who I thought was a very good politician, interviewed him a few times, very
Well, he's
smart.
certainly a great politician.
Yeah,
the best.
one of the best natural politicians
Ever.
I've ever met.
Yeah.
But I see, you know, in the end, the Monica Lewinsky scandal, the fact he paid somebody off $850,000 in another scandal, you put it all together, you think, okay, if you're going to play this card with Trump, do you not understand that this is going to come back and haunt you guys for eternity? In other words, if you get to that kind of ludicrously petty level where you drag a president through a criminal court over something so trivial, then this will never stop.
Right. Well, it also devalues Americans' faith in their justice system, which is a real cost. It's I think, a country-destroying cost. And if there's one thing, you know, there's this constant conversation about what makes America, well, as we say, exceptional. Why is it different? Why do people want to come here? And you often hear the dumbest people in our society say it's because of our free market economy. You know, we're rich. There are tons of rich countries. People want to move. Don't want to move. A lot of rich people in Lagos, Nigeria. No one moves there. The main thing that we have always had is a fair justice system. Not perfect, but basically pretty fair, where every citizen is treated equally. I mean, that's the promise of the United States. And if you tamper with that, you're really messing with the core formula of the country. I mean, there's an egalitarian spirit that undergirds all of our institutions. I'm a citizen, I'm your equal. That's a Northern European concept that was brought to North America 250 years ago. It's worked great. People like it, no matter where they're from. And they are destroying that. The left is destroying that, with the complicity of lots of Republicans, too. It's not just the Democratic Party. But I don't think we should mess with that at all.
The other pivotal moment, it seemed to me, in the race was the assassination attempt. Where Trump's reaction, I mean, my brother was a British Army colonel, for example, and he said to me, you never know how people are going to react till they get shot.
That's right.
That some people that you would least expect crumble, cry out for their mother. Other people who you may not expect to be that courageous leap up and go straight back into the fire. And he said, you just don't know. Trump's reaction was genuinely extraordinary, because he didn't know if there were other shooters in that audience. His natural gut reaction was to stand up, say, fight, 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 with blood pouring over his face. And it became not just an iconic image, but I'm certain that if there was any doubt, that's the moment he won the election.
Of course.
Did you feel the same?
Of course, because the prerequisite for leadership is bravery, physical bravery, not just conceptual bravery. I'm so brave. But actual bravery. You know, the guy who leads the tribe is the guy who, you know, repels the invaders, period. That's been true since we lived in caves, and it's never going to not be true. And, you know, Kamala Harris would like it not to be true, because she's obviously a coward who follows instructions. And the leadership of both parties is that way. And Trump is unusual in that he has bravery. And people follow that. It's a matter of instinct. I do think that shooting, I hope that'll be examined. Because
what's happened with the investigation? We don't know anything about this kid.
Well, Piers, I don't know, because you're not from the United States. It's very common for assassins of presidents to have no motive at all.
Extraordinary.
And at the age of 20 to have no social media profile. He never went on the internet.
Nothing.
It's kind of weird.
No record at all.
Yeah, not at all. No cutlery in his own home. Advanced bomb making skills. Operating drones. Bringing a rangefinder. Making a pretty great offhand shot at 150 yards under duress. It's just normal in America. I mean, the whole thing is so nuts, actually. The fact that the Secret Service allowed this to happen, which they did.
The guy's on the most. Oh, if I was running the Secret Service for the day, what's the first place you'd look? Oh, it would be the flat roof with a direct line on the stage.
You think? And there was not one agent positioned or assigned to look at that. None. They had no idea.
But why?
Well, because they wanted to kill Trump, obviously. The Biden administration wanted to kill Trump. I mean, there's no doubt.
Do you genuinely think?
Of course, I know that. And I know that by what I saw. In other words, if you leave your child inside a locked car on a hot day and go into a casino and spend 3 hours gambling and the kid suffocates, I can say, Piers, you killed your child. And you say, well, I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter. You didn't care enough about your child that you went back and rescued him from suffocation. It's demonstrable. Your intent can be divined from your actions. If you allow a roof 40 yards away to remain unsurveilled, a guy with a rangefinder and a drone to come into your area while the presidential candidate is speaking, You don't care about saving the life
And
of that man.
I actually thought what happened at the golf course a few weeks later was even worse in this sense. This is a few weeks after he's actually been shot.
Yes.
He's playing at his own golf course where he regularly plays at weekends when he's in Florida. And he was 5 minutes away of walking up to a green where if one Secret Service agent who happened to walk ahead had not seen the barrel of a rifle poking out of a bush, that guy had a loaded AK-47, he had body armor, he was ready to go. Trump would be dead. And that would have been, I think, the biggest scandal ever, because that was just weeks after he'd already survived an assassination. But no one makes much of a fuss about that either.
How many members of Congress did that guy meet with? A lot. He was in Ukraine, which is controlled by the U.S. intel services. I mean, that's just a fact. He was in Ukraine, which is a kind of wellspring of lunacy. Sorry, I know you support it, but it's done more to destabilize the West than anything that's happened in my lifetime. And the amount of evil that has emanated from that country, the amount of assassinations that have come from Ukraine, I happen to know, is very high. And so this guy is in Ukraine and having contact. Well, how many members of Congress did he meet with and what did they talk about? This is an assassin. No, we don't know.